Of all the presidential speeches I've seen in my lifetime, Obama's performance today has to be the worst. The absolute worst. He's arrogant, he's economically illiterate, and he's turning into a joke. It was a Castro-like speech, full of cheap shots, dissembling, and class warfare. And let me tell you something, folks, this man isn't going to change. The only way to stop his Sherman-like march through our society is to defeat him in 2012. I want to be as clear as I know how. I have my favorite Republican candidates and my least favorite. In fact, some I don't like at all. But I will do whatever I can, on and off the air, to defeat this man in 2012, regardless who the nominee is. Not one of them is a radical left-wing statist who gets some kind of sick enjoyment out of destroying the foundations of this society. He must be defeated. He and his administration must be driven out of Washington if this nation is to have any chance at all to recover. The idea that the man most responsible for driving this nation into a debt-ridden third world status would somehow today reverse course, admit his own idiocy and the idiocy of his own ideology, and contribute anything to securing the nation's economic future was always complete nonsense. And those who have given Obama the benefit of the doubt, who've insisted that his policies are not intended to destroy our economic system, they're not intended to transform this nation, should finally be shaken from their delusion. How can you look at these trillions in debt and trillions in deficits and push even harder for more government and not purposely seek the obliteration of this society? This isn't an accident. This isn't a coincidence. This is a fact. This is intentional. Obama is knowingly and happily driving this nation into bankruptcy because he refuses to accept the facts. He refuses to look at the evidence. He refuses to exercise reason. He refuses to be rational. Obama's ambition is ideological. And if he was able to rule this nation without any checks and balances, which he keeps talking about from time to time, how do you think this nation would look? What do you think would happen to our liberty and our private property rights? Obama is driving up the debt. Obama is driving up food prices. Obama is driving up energy prices. Obama is driving down home prices. Obama is driving out businesses. Obama is destroying jobs. This is what statists do. This is their historical record. And this is Obama's record. Not George Bush, not the oil companies, not the drug industry, not the insurance companies. Obama. Obama has done this, and he intends to do more. And no amount of Castro-like speeches will change it. Now let's get down to some facts. Unequivocal facts. In order to fund Obamacare, Obama stole over $400 billion from Medicare. Now he pretends to worry about the senior citizens and the cost of Medicare. Right. Obama destroyed the private student loan program. He nationalized it, which provided a wide variety of plans for students to attend college. Now he pretends to care about students. Obama nationalized the banking industry, effectively, through the back door, imposing regulations on borrowers, you, that are so draconian, it can barely secure a loan for a home or cars and so forth. Obama has created instability in the business world, choking investment and destroying jobs. That is what happens when you have an out-of-control ruler who has no respect for the individual, private property rights, or the institutions that this society has been built on over many generations. None. And besides the substance of his speech today, his arrogance. Now, let me tell you what happens if Obama and his party, because the Democrat Party has now been taken over by the hard left, if they win this debt fight and we lose. And by the way, economic decline, societal decline doesn't know party, doesn't know race, doesn't know age, doesn't know sex. It affects everybody. Your investments, savings, stocks, bonds, pensions, you name it, will lose most, if not all, of their value as a result of inflation and currency devaluation. Those of you who benefit from the government programs, you'll cease to receive those benefits as the welfare state will finally collapse. Those of you who pay taxes, a smaller and smaller number of us, well, we'll be required to pay much more if not most of our income, to the government, assuming we still have an income. Those of you who own assets will find that your private property rights, which have now been breached in 1,000 different ways, are not what they used to be. So you may lose whatever you have left. This is what happens in societal declines, an emergency. What follows from societies that spiral out of control, too far gone to recover, is a substantial increase in repression. And as the civil society disintegrates, anarchy begins to spread. This is the history of failed societies. It didn't take much for the virtual breakdown of law and order, if you remember, in Madison, Wisconsin last month, did it? And that was barely anything. Now, this is not fear-mongering. This is reality, historical reality. Free societies are few and far between since the existence of mankind. Believe it or not, ours is among the longest surviving of the free societies. I can think of no truly free society that has survived more than 500 or 1,000 years. And I can think of no reason why we should willingly destroy our own society, the most magnificent society man has ever established on the face of the earth. This is why we fight. This is why there's a Tea Party movement. This is why parents, grandparents, young people, people from all walks of life are engaged, are informed, are organizing, and are voting. This is why we are insisting the Republicans resist this president and his party with every means possible, because we cherish this nation. We cherish our society. We cherish our way of life. We have no intention of surrendering it all, today and for all time, to Obama and a cabal of politicians because they demand it. This is, or at least was, a representative republic. Obama's not our sovereign, and we're not his subjects, and we refuse to be enslaved to his ideology. Obama is no savior. He's not going to save anyone or protect anything. You are. You are. Did he talk about the Constitution today? No. Did he talk about the Declaration of Independence today? No. Did he explain how young people can become successful and productive and be part of the American dream? No. He told them that without government, they'll fail. He told senior citizens, without government, they'll die. He told the sick, without government, they'll die. He told the middle class, which he targets day in and day out, that they'll cease to exist, but for him and his big government. Is that true, ladies and gentlemen? Do each and every one of you need Obama in order to get through every day? Now, I find it interesting, very, very interesting, the propaganda versus the reality. We don't need $3.6, $3.7, or $3.8 trillion to make sure those who cannot care for themselves due to mental or physical infirmities are taken care of. We don't need to bankrupt our nation and future generations to make sure the feeble and the sick who cannot care for themselves, if their families can't care for them, that they're taken care of. That's not what we're talking about. And yet he uses those examples. What does that have to do with the trillions of dollars that are used to create monuments to the bureaucracy, to redistribute wealth, to issue regulations to control what we can do in our homes and our cars and our businesses, to drive up the cost of fuel and food and energy? What does any of that have to do with the elderly and the infirm and children who are autistic? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This president isn't standing for the elderly and the students and the sick and those who otherwise can't care for themselves. He's standing for the government, where the bureaucrats are paid twice as much as the subjects, us, where the budgets are bloated, where people are shuffling paper around to control your life, not to improve it, to control it. And listen to the lapdogs in the media, the idiocy. On and on they talk about Obama's proposal for $4 trillion in cuts. Really? Where is that proposal exactly? The fact that he says it doesn't make it so. The fact that he refuses to allow any serious independent economist to analyze it should tell us plenty. So why do the media run with that story? Because the president says so? No, I don't think so. This president is a serial liar. Don't take my word for it. That's his record. He's a serial liar. So this is what we're up against. This is who he is. This is who his supporters are. They create the biggest economic mess imaginable They controlled the damn government for 2 years without any checks and balances, and they blame everybody else. And then when you say, okay, we want to fix it, then they say you're not allowed to. Make sense? Of course it doesn't. They're going to say whatever they have to say and do whatever they have to do to advance their agenda. And their agenda is to remake this society into some inexplicable, undefined other society where they have enormous power and we don't. That's what this fight is all about. Now, let me tell you this. Here's the good news. This president is weak intellectually and in every other respect. This president is easy pickings for a decent conservative Republican candidate. He can try and spin, but he should be able to have his shoulders pinned to the wall with his lies and his lies and his lies. He is so radical, and he's so unsuccessful as a president. He's not 10 feet tall. He's barely 2 inches tall. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Mr. Producer, am I speaking in the English language, yes or no? Am I using complete sentences? So when I say I would vote for any Republican against Obama, does that mean I'm going to support any Republican in the primary process? So I'm going to support the conservatives in the primary process, right? Have I not been doing that my entire radio career? So when I say in the general election that I will vote for whomever is against Obama, does that mean I'm throwing Michelle Bachmann under the bus? I mean, come on, people, listen to what I'm saying. Don't let your minds run away. Don't you think I'm like the least likely person on radio or anywhere else to do that? Use your heads, please. Let me tell you something else. So I'm going to be very critical of a number of these so-called Republicans. I'm going to continue to be. I'm not going to allow the radical libertarians to tell me that we should be slashing our defense budget more either. And anyone they disagree with is a neocon. In other words, they mean a New York Jew. I'm not a neocon. I'm a Reaganite. But I also believe in a very strong military. Because apparently the communist Chinese do too. And they're building theirs up, boy, day in and day out to scary levels. And one of the primary responsibilities of government is to defend this nation because we in the private sector are in no position to do so. We need to get our priorities back, our constitutional priorities. We're conservatives. We're not radical kooks who believe in a government that's as close to anarchy as possible. We believe in a constitutional republic. That's what we believe in. I'll be right back.